And thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to be here with us and to learn a little bit about Iron Galaxy and to hear the perspectives of some incredible women at our company and some awesome developers. So, with that, I think we'll get these things rolling. Rick's going to keep admitting folks as we go along. And GDC was very great. Thank you for asking. Well, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But today, I would like to let you know what we have going on as a company as Iron Galaxy. So this is a part of our Press Start initiative, which is essentially hoping to get folks more exposure or more resources so they can have a first step into their career in games. So we did one for Black History Month. This is our Women's History Month edition, and these conversations are recorded. So if you want to take a look at those, we publish them on YouTube. You can find them later. Today's agenda: you're going to meet our team. We're going to give you all the information about Iron Galaxy. We'll have a developer panel where we'll ask our developers here some questions. We will also give you some advice to help you get hired. And of course, we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A. Without further ado, I'll pass it on over to Rejess for an introduction.
Thanks, Eli. Yeah, I'm Rejess Marshall. I manage our diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs here at Iron Galaxy. So anything related, I help. I serve as an accountability partner to all of our departments and our teams. Just making sure that we're staying true to our core values and that we're making this place as awesome as possible as we can for our people and making it easier for applicants to also apply and join us. So my favorite food, Jamaican, anything Jamaican. Favorite game, Monopoly. I'm a board game player. So any board game, honestly, I'm down to play, but Monopoly is my fave and all of the different iterations of Monopoly. I do play NBA 2K. That's about the only console game that you can find me playing though. And I play 2K. Fun fact, I'm a DJ. So on the weekends, you can catch me on the ones and the twos. And then my pronouns are she, her. Thanks.
Rejess, who's your team in NBA 2K? Can I out you like that?
I mean, it really just depends. Sometimes I just play the schedule for the day, but they have like the My Team where you create your own
Okay.
team. So I'm usually playing with my own created team.
Okay. Just want to let you know. The the basketball strong here.
Yeah, whatever.
Don't want to talk about that. Let's move on. Let's get our next panelist introduced here. Give me a second as this transitions over there.
Well,
Alicia, please take
that's
the
me.
stage.
Hello, I'm Alicia Cano. Yeah, I've worked in tech for maybe 15 years, and I've been at IG for about 10, and game dev too for about 10. Before that was not game dev, but different tech. Yeah, what do we say here? My favorite food is pasta. If I ever have pasta in front of me, I'm pretty happy, or I wasn't that happy, and now I'm happier because I have pasta. I also like board games, but not Monopoly. My favorite game currently is Azul, which is a really fun tile-based game. I highly recommend. As far as video games, I'm playing Tunic kind of right now. And then what else did I say here? Right, my fun fact was, well, I'm a programmer normally, but I really admire artists, and I got to participate in a mural that's in Orlando because I also like doing mosaic art. Haven't done too much recently because of the pandemic and all that kind of fell off. But before that, I got to participate with this really awesome mural that's on the side of a building. That's really fun. And then, yeah, and if you Google diversity mural in Orlando, you'll see pictures. And yeah, I'm she, her.
Awesome. I kind of want to link of that in chat later. I want to see your mural. I want to see what it looks like.
Okay.
I also want to tell you there are too many shapes of pasta. There are too many styles of pasta. I know that probably makes you happy.
That's incorrect.
Okay.
The only wrong one is really bow tie, but my daughter would disagree with me. She likes bow ties, but I think she's correct. That's the only one that we could lose. Every other pasta has its, perfect
value, merit. Yeah.
So you're wrong, but can't be right about everything. It's okay.
Good to find out. Next, we'll introduce Meredith. Come up to the stage, Meredith.
I don't know if I can contribute to the pasta argument. I'm going to leave that to the professionals, but I'm Meredith Ament. I'm the L&D lead at Iron Galaxy. I also am in charge of our employee success team. So we are in charge of just ensuring that everyone is enjoying their time at Iron Galaxy. And if anything is going wrong, we are a primary resource to help folks out in those situations. Favorite food, strawberries and dark chocolate. Self-care, guys. Self-care, Favorite game, Hades. also self-care, if you're me, at least. Fun fact, I studied sustainable farming and food production practices while living in New Zealand for a little bit in the bush of the Coromandel Peninsula, and my pronouns are she, her. So that me. Always using
What's
the
a
thumbs up.
Meredith? What's a good New Zealand food?
What's a good New Zealand food? Ooh, I particularly enjoyed feijoas over there.
Mm.
And please don't let any New Zealanders know that I pronounced it like that. I'm pretty sure that is incorrect, or not entirely as it should be pronounced, but it is a fruit that tastes like sweet tarts. So, yeah.
The more you know. Thank you
The more
so
you know.
much, Meredith. The more you know. All right. Next up, we have Marina. Come on down, Marina.
Hello guys, I'm Marina. I'm the lead UI artist here in Iron Galaxy. And what can I say? Favorite food, cheese, all kinds of cheese, blue cheese, goat cheese, semi-solid cheese, cream cheese, every kind of cheese. I love it. Super happy with the cheese platter everywhere, anywhere. Favorite game. Currently I'm playing Season. A Letter to the Future is kind of an indie game that it caught my eye a while back when it was first presented in Day of the Devs, I believe, and the art direction, it could be awesome. Like, it's beautiful. UI is beautiful too. I could be going on and on talking about this game, but I'm just gonna say check it out. It's pretty good. Fun fact about me, this is something that not everyone knows, but as a secondary career path, I always wanted to pursue voice acting in video games and animation media, all kinds of that, and kind of a radio person too. So there you have it. Everything is connected in a way though. And my pronouns are she, her.
I got to hear a voice then. What's your go-to like character voice?
Boy, I don't know, all kinds of voices. I particularly really like the high pitch, like be the school kid, because woman we get cast for those usually. And I mean, I don't know, I can do many voices. Probably better in
Okay.
Spanish than English, but maybe more voice reveal after the panels.
Yeah, maybe at the end of the panel we'll have I'll type a sentence into chat that you read in your high school voice actor voice. I'm excited to hear
I'll
that.
just say próximamente.
Okay. And let's go to our next panelist here. Erica, please tell us a little bit about you.
I don't want you guys to think that I'm like stealing from Meredith or Marina and some of my fun facts and stuff. But yeah, I'm Erica. I'm a UI designer. My favorite food is strawberries. I also like it in strawberries and chocolate. Basically anything strawberry, I'm very happy with. My favorite game of all time is Legend of Zelda. Yes, I'm excited for Tears of the Kingdom. No, I have not watched the video that released today yet, and I am trying to avoid it so I can be surprised. Hopefully, we'll see how well that goes. But I'm playing tons of games. I recently went through both Last of Us, both part 1 and 2. I've been doing Fire Emblem, the new one, and I've also been doing Hogwarts Legacy. So I'm pretty much playing like 5 games at a time. It's just how that goes when you're a designer. Fun fact, not to copy Marina's, but I also like doing voices, and one of the ones that I'm most known for is that I can mimic Kirby from Nintendo. That little high-pitched squeaky thing. Basically, helium does not have an effect on my voice. And yeah, my pronouns are also she, her.
So Erica, I wasn't going to let you leave the slide without giving us a little bit of the Kirby voice, right? Like that was never going to happen.
I don't know how well it comes on this. Hang on. Hi.
That was a 10 out of 10, a 20 out of 10 even, actually. Also, I am on the strawberry train as well. Before I lived with my significant other, I had never had strawberries and Nutella, and now it's a stable part of my diet. So always eating that.
I will say I did dress up as Kirby for Halloween last year. I have a giant inflatable Kirby costume, and I have a giant Mexican tomato. I can share pictures of that if we want in the chat later, but yeah.
So if in another life you were reincarnated as Kirby, you would be very happy with the situation?
If I could eat that amount of food and for the rest of my life, and that's all I have to do, I would be so happy.
Oh, Sandy in chat has a Kirby tattoo. I love it. I have a video game tattoo as well. All right,
Love
so
Kirby.
Thank you for telling us about you. Lastly, I'm Eli. I'm a recruiter at the company. If you are looking for jobs, please get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to help you. I'd be happy to share resources. I have job boards. I have salary advice. I have good resume template websites too. I'm happy to help you. The recruiters at the company you want to work for are there to assist you get a job. If their contact is open, their DMs, their emails public, that means, hey, please reach out to me so I can help you get a job there. It's important to, ping and not pester, so don't message them every week. Maybe once a quarter, something like that. Have a meaningful, genuine conversation with them and do the research on the company too, and make sure that you've looked at the role and not just said, hey, what open roles do you have for me? You should look at their website first and say, hey, I might be a fit for this, right? So we're going to give a little bit of advice on how to get hired later in this conversation, but I just want you to know, as a recruiter, to you, this audience, that we've got you. We're going to take care of you. We're going to help you. And if we can't help you, we'll try our best to get you in touch with recruiters we know that can help you at other companies. So my favorite food is Hawaiian barbecue or tacos. I love me a bulgogi. I love me spam musubis, kalua pork, short ribs. I'm a beef person. In fact, I got back from GDC and I had the same tacos and burrito from a place 3 days in a row. I door dashed 3 different days in a row like a real sicko, but it was something that I just wanted their burritos and tacos, and it made me feel good. My favorite game of all time is Super Mario RPG. Fun fact about me is I worked on an indie game starring a jerk cloud where you rain on people's parades and you ruin their day. In fact, the first level, you rain on someone's wedding. It's very funny and chaos ensues. And my pronouns are he, him. So without further ado, we're going to get into a little bit of information about Iron Galaxy. So who are we? We're one of the world's largest independent game developers. We have 270 plus team members. We've shipped 60 plus titles with 20 plus partners. It's a whole lot of games. We're in Chicago, we're in Nashville, we're in Orlando, and we're coming soon to Austin, Texas. So those are the places that you can work with us. Now, why would you want to work here? I think it's three things: the project variety, the work-life balance, and the job stability. The things that we put on our website as bullet points are not simple placations. I see our team members living by them every day, and I see our leadership team giving us the resources to invest in all of these areas. But variety-wise, we worked on 10 different games in 2022 across 12 platforms. You can name it, we've shipped that style of game: first person shooters, role playing games, MMOs, and more. We work on everything in Unreal, Unity, and even custom game engines and proprietary engines. So project variety is vast here at Iron Galaxy. We typically work on 6 to 10 games in a calendar year. Now, work-life balance wise, all of those many projects help us have tremendous work-life balance in the form of 40-hour work weeks. We ask you for your best 8 hours a day to equal your 40-hour work week. And along with that comes generous paid time off, vacation days, sick days, mental health days. We also have flexible start times, hybrid options, so you can work in office and from home. So those hybrid options, it's 2 days in office, 3 days from home, and it doesn't have to be the same days or the same times. What we do is we, treat you like an adult here. No one's taking role. We understand that, most weeks that you work at Iron Galaxy, it'll be 2 days in office, 3 days from home. So we give you that flexibility to live your life. And when it comes to our benefits, they're incredibly inclusive. When it comes to leave for parents, we have leave for the birthing parent and non-birthing parent. We have all different types of health insurance plans as well that can cover a myriad of lifestyles. And so I will tell you that Iron Galaxy is always talking about being inclusive with our benefits, and I back it up and I see it in our paperwork too. Now, the last area I'm going to jump into is the stability. And this is impressive. It's rare in tech, and it's even rarer in games to have 0 layoffs in 14 years. That's how long we've existed and how long we've had 0 layoffs. 32 of our team members have 10 plus years of tenure now. When a big company opens, they say, hey, this company is a new startup. They're making games. They have 88 combined years of experience. Just 32 of our team members have over 300 years of experience. There's so much you can learn here, so much mentorship, and so much gaming know-how within the walls of this studio. And the biggest companies on the planet trust us to work with them. And in fact, speaking of games, let's move to our next area here. Some of our accolades. Oh, I skipped past it. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to get past you. If you didn't believe the slide there, many places on the internet have said that we are, in fact, a great place to work. In fact, gamesindustry.biz, they do a survey every year, and more than 90% of your employees have to say you're a great place to work for you to receive this award. And at Iron Galaxy, that is true. We received this award, and we were one among 3 large video game companies to win it within the entire industry. So that's something that we are extremely excited about, and many places on the internet back up what I was saying to you just a moment ago. But of course, you might be here because you like video games, right? So let me tell you a little bit about the 60 plus games that Iron Galaxy has worked on in our 14-year history. We do ports, remasters, we do co-development, we do support work, and we also do our own full game development. Let's take a look first at the port projects. It's things like Spyro, Crash, Skyrim, Street Fighter, Borderlands. We recently ported Uncharted 4 to PC with Sony. We've also done a lot of support work. It's things like Destiny, BioShock, Fallout, Overwatch, Diablo, and we just recently ported, or sorry, not ported, we did support work for Metroid Prime Remaster with Nintendo on Switch. And we do co-development. Let me pull those up here for you. Actually, I can't tell you anything about those projects, but these are some of the platforms we've done co-dev on. I don't want to break my NDA, and I like keeping my job, so I can't tell you about all of those, but I can promise you it's a lot of exciting titles at the studio. And last but not least, I wanted to highlight some of our full game development. Racketeer, Divekick, Extinction, Rumbleverse, and Killer Instinct are all projects that we're well known for, and people online tell us about all the time. So it's an honor to work on these franchises and for people to always recognize them so many years later. It's always great to hear from them. So having told you a little bit about Iron Galaxy, the last thing that I'll wrap up on is as you're entering your career in games, I think the best thing about us is the variety of projects. At school, they tell you to pick a major, to pick a lane. At Iron Galaxy, I think your major is kind of constantly changing as you rotate between projects. I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit more with our panelists today, but I'm going to stop sharing the screen here and we're going to jump into some questions with our team. So let's go in reverse order of how we introduce things. Erica, would you mind telling us what your pathway to games was? Oh, I think we have you muted still.
Hear me now?
There we go.
Yep. So my path, I did go to college for game production and simulation, and I did get a bachelor's degree. And then from there, I immediately started to try and find a career. I ended up getting, after a lot of feedback and interviews and just learning as I went, I got a shot at a smaller studio in Miami. And I worked there as in QA and kind of learned about how the production and how development works in a more professional setting. And unfortunately, projects end. And I ended up, I was there for about a year, and then I got hired to Iron Galaxy again as in QA. And within a few years, I started learning more design because I always wanted to get into design. And I voiced that I wanted to get into design with my leads and with my with the head of the design department. And an opportunity came up where I got to actually show what I could do, and I ended up switching over to design department. So I've been with Iron Galaxy for about 6 years almost now, but I've been in the industry for 7. And I did a lot of, while I was working in QA, I did a lot of self-learning, self-practicing, kind of seeing what we do, what we use, and then learning it on my own free time. And then when an opportunity came up, I was like, hey, I've been watching you guys. I can do this too. Huzzah. And that's how I got into design and my career path.
It sounds like you had to make it happen for yourself a little bit too, right? And I was going to ask you, how much support did you get from Iron Galaxy in that journey? Or was this something where you just kind of saw the vision and you were like, I'm going to climb this mountain?
So it was a little bit of both. I started learning, I was QA, and when I was in QA, I was often put on the UI team as the embedded QA person on that team. And so I started to learn a lot about UI and how that went, ended up really liking it, learning more on my own free time. And then when an opportunity came up, Iron Galaxy was very pulled me aside and asked if I wanted a mentorship program. So I went through a program within the studio where they actually put me with some of our more senior UI designers, and they really worked with me, kind of went over everything that I've been learning and gave me guidance. And then, so it was kind of, to get up to that point was on my own. But when opportunity arose, the company was really good about giving me an opportunity, giving me that guidance. And I am by far not the only person that's made this switch. I know about a couple of people who've gone from QA into production, or even just from various aspects. We have designers that came from engineering. If you have an interest, Iron Galaxy is pretty good about making sure that you can stretch, kind of not stretch, but try new things.
But it does sound like, and I want to commend you, because it sounds like you did put yourself in a position to succeed because you were doing the work in the background too, right?
Yes, it helps, and that's the kind of attitude. It's just, that's kind of how a lot of us are. That passion, and again, I love design. It's what I wanted to get into from the get-go. So, but it was nice. I mean, even before that opportunity came up, the really nice thing about the company culture is that I was able to talk to designers even before that opportunity came up to get feedback and what people were using, and just talk to my coworkers about, like, hey, can you look at this and tell me what you think about it, kind of a situation. And that was really beneficial as well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I know we went a little deeper on that one, but I felt like it was so important in the moment to kind of hear about that. I want to switch over to you, Meredith, now, and just hear a little bit about your path to games, because you're one of the folks that's not on the art, engineering, design side. You're on the HR side, and I know that's, to me, where I'm at too. And I think folks don't really recognize how many opportunities there are in operations, IT, community management, brand. So, what was your path to Iron Galaxy? How'd you get here?
Yeah, my path was probably somewhat windy, I would say. I didn't study games in school. I actually studied anthropology while I was there. Really appreciated cultural and social anthropology aspects. Worked for a little bit. The work I was doing was not what I was passionate about. And thankfully, I have my very awesome mother in my life who said, hey, maybe you should think about what you are passionate about. And I said, hey, Mom, that's a good question. So after thinking through that, I still didn't go to school for games. I actually went to study visual ethnography, which then led me to studying things like documentary film. But all the while, I've loved games throughout my life. I've always seen visual media as a really awesome way to connect with folks. Can't tell you how many people I've had deep connections with over things like games. And so it got to a point where I started realizing my deep passion in life was helping people improve their lives, right? And seeing the way that the workplace treats people and saying there is such a better way to do this. So I worked for a little bit at some smaller companies, experience some of the difficult sides of things, but also experience some awesome people along the way, some great mentors and stuff. So it was when I was keeping an eye on Iron Galaxy's job board, saw all the development roles, and then I spotted one that was the employee success coordinator role. And reading through it, I saw it combined all of my anthropology skills with all of my passion for just helping improve people's lives and making sure that they're enjoying the work that they're doing. So I was able to enter Iron Galaxy that way. So not the most direct route.
I was gonna say, where Erica did the research, your mom just kind of propelled you. So one, shout out to moms. I think
Yes.
moms are great. And it's
Yes.
wonderful to hear, that not everyone's journey is going to be the same, and that there will be those winding paths for some folks. But I think when you lead with the passion and you do, make that decision to yourself, I want to do something that I'm not going to be miserable doing. I think that can be very powerful in your experience. I'd like to pop on over to then Marina now to hear, what was your path to games?
Yeah, that sounds good. And my path is actually kind of similar a little bit to Meredith, not exactly the same route, but I started my gaming career a decade ago back in Spain, where I am originally from. And funny enough, I actually graduated in fine arts. I was meant to be a traditional illustrator, sculptor. And my background is based on traditional painting, animation, and printing techniques. So it's slightly related to UI artists, but not quite the, I guess, the education you will expect. And then until, I eventually, after graduating, I decided to combine my two main passions that were like, I always had in me, which were like traditional illustration, and computer graphics. And you get like wonderful art in video games after that math. And that's when I specialize in UI texture art for games. When I first started in the industry, though, I used to work in the small projects in game startups as a game art generalist, like very, very generalist. And then I was, at the time, I was covering like modeling, texturing, UI work, and even level design, which is crazy to think about right now. But since they were kind of small projects with not a lot of developers, you end up like wearing like a lot of hats, which is something that, you know, a lot of young developers will, you know, will encounter through through your learning curve or whatnot. But and then that's when I slowly decided to focus on UI art and animation, accessibility, and navigation for games. And you know, after that, you know, after one really cool opportunity that was games-based learning brought me to New York, North State, and that opportunity led me to Nevada, Reno, which I was working there for a while in West Coast, and then eventually led me to Chicago, where I eventually joined Iron Galaxy. So it's been a long journey to get here.
I know nowhere will compare to Spain. I get that. I understand. But how's Chicago faring in the rankings between like Nevada and New York? You know, where are we?
Honestly, it's funny. I was having a conversation the other day with my fellow coworkers, and it was kind of the same question. When I got in Chicago, I was like, I feel like I fit in the city. The city is for me. I really love developing in Chicago, and you know, the industry is big enough for you to have a lot of options in game development, but also small enough to feel comfy in your own community, if that makes sense.
It does. It's a beautiful sentiment. And
I love Chicago. Yeah.
well, thanks. I mean, recruiting gives that answer the stamp of approval. Like, you know what I mean? I wish I could record that and send that to people.
Marina approves.
Yeah. We'll make a UI stamp that can just go on the screen. All right. Alicia, would you mind telling me your path to games next?
Yeah, sure. Mine is also not straight. I went to university, University of Florida, and I knew I wanted to do something related to art. Didn't really know what. And Toy Story had just come out, and I thought, that's rad. I want to do that. And so I went to a digital arts program, and I found out more about the digital art industry. I went, oh, that's really unstable. I would like to have a career that I could make money and actually keep a job for any amount of time without the whole studio closing every time the project ended, which is still a problem in the industry. So kind of backed off that for a little while. Then I was like, maybe I'll work like adjacent to something like that, and I'll just be a computer engineer. And I ended up working at Disney for a while doing business technology stuff, which was dry and boring, and I hated it. So I decided to go back to what I wanted to do in the first place, which was something related to art, and kind of fell into finding video games. In Orlando, there's the EA game studio here, and I actually made friends with a whole bunch of devs that were there. And I was like, oh, these people are really cool, and they're kind of working on stuff that seems really interesting, and their studio doesn't go away every time they release a game. So me went, that seems closer. So I went back to school and went to grad school at UCF. I went to a games program there that's still going on. It's still really rad. And after that was over, I got hired at IG. Been here for 9.5 years. I'll be 10 in August, I think. So that's pretty cool.
How many like different like types of titles have you had in that time as you've grown with the company? Like what?
A lot. I actually had only reason I can answer this is because I had to write it down just recently. And it's something like 10 different titles and projects. Like not all of them are announced. But yeah, like all different platforms, all different. Yeah, I mean, that's the fun part of IG is you just get to work on so many different things. And don't get comfy because I always have a thing with, especially with younger devs, if they get on a project they're not like particularly thrilled about, I just say like, wait 6 months, you'll be on something different, because it's just kind of the way it goes. Like 6 months to a year, you'll probably be on a different project and you might love it. So yeah, it's a fun place to work.
Yeah, and I love how much you can like learn, even on maybe something that's a genre that's not your favorite. You can still learn something from those systems, those tools, how that company does things. So there are things to still, I think, add on, even if you are rotating.
Yeah, yeah, it's completely true. It's like you should always be really open to any games they put you on, just because, I mean, I don't, I play games, but I don't play them at the level of like a lot of people here. Like Erica plays more games in a month than I probably play in 2 years. But
You don't have a Destiny like cube on your desk that lights up, like you
I
don't
get
have
like
that.
stuck on games where I'll just play the same game for a very long time, and I really like board games too. So,
Okay.
but like the just getting to play through different games is really fun. Like I don't know that I would have played through Diablo 3 had I not been put on it. So that was really fun. Like I don't, and it's definitely like a game I liked and enjoyed playing. It's just I don't think I would have done it had I not been put on it. And it's a pretty game. I mean, just all the right things. So
The mechanics, the systems, the skill trees, all that stuff is awesome.
yeah, I would say like yeah, just being on games period is just fun, and then like being on a game that you really like is I don't know how often it happens. It definitely happens. We've gotten games where we're like, oh, we got Spyro. We really have to have Phil on Spyro. He loved that game. We have to
Yeah.
put Phil on that, but like I just think in general you get to play such a variety then. So
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you for diving deep with me on that one too. I know I kind of had some follow-ups. Rejess, would you mind rounding out the team here with your path to IG into games?
Yeah, absolutely. I was seeking to do a career transition. Me and Eli used to work in insurance, and one day I decided that that was not the career path for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something that just impacted people. I cared about people and wanted to find a career where I could impact people's daily lives at their jobs. And so I decided to pursue a career in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so when I graduated, I did a master's in business administration with a concentration in human resources and organizational behavior. And so in my, post-grad job search, I was on LinkedIn and applied for this role here at Iron Galaxy. So, shout out to LinkedIn and all the wonderful folks here at IG. And that's how I got my start in games. Never thought I would actually work in video games at all. So pretty cool.
Love it. Well, speaking of that post-grad job search, thank you for teeing me up for this. I'm going to slam dunk it. I want to talk about advice, the advice that you might have for someone who is getting their first job in games and who's entering the games industry. So I was going to start with Erica. Erica, do you have any advice that you would have either given yourself when you were first starting this journey, or that you'd give someone who's starting their journey seeking roles?
The biggest thing is just to get into these engines, like these free engines like Unreal Engine, Unity, and all that stuff. Like dive into those, really learn how those engines work. It wasn't until I really started just like making projects on your own, like I want to just make this and work this on my own, and even finding people that are also looking into getting into the industry, working as a team to create small passion projects. The skills that you get from just talking to people and doing all of that in your own free time is huge. And yeah, it's just and then also knowing how to describe your skills on paper for applications and such. That's something that I know when I was first getting into the industry, it took me a while to understand what exactly people were looking for and how to present myself in a way that made me appealing, and also just ask for feedback, because I did a lot of interviews when I was first coming in the industry with a lot of big companies, and my favorite were the ones that actually I would always try and follow up with, like, hey, obviously I didn't get the position, could you please explain why? And that would often give me some amazing feedback of just like, oh, you're certain things can't help being green, but you can definitely help with like your resume layout, your portfolio, and just showing that extra incentive.
Love it. What about you, Marina? Do you have any advice for anyone looking for their first job in games?
Yeah, in my case, I think I'm gonna be a little more specific to art, maybe, just because
Yeah, of course.
a very specific discipline. How you present yourself has another layer of complexity. But all the stuff that Erica said, I echo it. That I echo in that. It's awesome. something kind of related what she said about the engines and find someone to develop with. I would recommend trying to get experience from working with teams just as much as learning tools. Like take some time to understand the disciplines that you work with, because the relationship and the communication is going to be key for you to learn how actually develop games, right? And if you are starting your career and you don't have a team, find a game jam, find a small project you can be part of, because those are great ways to, kind of start gaining like developing team perks, because team game is made by the team, not an only person, unless you go full indie, but still you need a lot of communication and those kind of team perks. Ludum Dare is a game jam, a famous game jam that they do several a year that comes to mind, but there's so many game jams,
Hundreds of them, yeah.
and it's thousands nowadays. And the other second and last maybe tip that I will give to people is besides asking for feedback in the interviewing process, surround yourself with a great collection of games and dedicate some time to analyze, UI, art style, character development, like environment, and try to understand why the direction works in that game or doesn't work with the overall design, because those will teach you, having a diverse scope of different styles that you understand and control will be key for you to, get into your next gig. And, IG has, Iron Galaxy has a lot of projects. And if you get put in a project, you will never know when you're going to jump to a project that has a completely different art style that you need to quickly get familiar with. So that will be my top
Advice.
and my top advice for artists. Yeah.
I really love the idea of curating your games through the lens of the role you might want to be joining. So you're like, hey, I'm a level designer. I'm gonna, curate a bunch of games that I think have great level design and find out the why they do, why they don't. I really love that advice. I think that's really smart. And then I'm just gonna say terms one more time. Game jam, GAME space JAM, like the stuff that you put on bread. Game jams are essentially short-term game projects where there's usually a theme and little teams get together and they rock and roll on rolling something out. So game jams are something you can start being a part of as you start, as Erica said, getting into those engines and kind of doing some hobbyist stuff on your own and understanding them. You can sharpen your skills so you can get ready for a game jam. You're really just both setting me up so well. Let's see if that trend continues. Alicia, I was going to ask you if you have any advice you'd like to share for folks either starting their career or advice you would have given yourself back when you started.
I was very fortunate to be walked through a lot of that stuff at my grad program, but I would do what I did at my grad program and make games. I think Erica maybe touched on it, but there's a lot of free engines where you can get into stuff. Just get UE4 down and start prototyping a game in there. You'll learn so much more than any book, and it'll make you solve problems, because that's what in the end game dev is somewhat about anyway. So at least I always like to say, that's what I do, is I solve problems. I'm an engineer, and like programming is great and all, but I just like solving problems. And it just happens to be that programming is usually the fastest way I can do that, so I do that. If there was a faster way for me to solve problems, I would probably be doing that instead. But designers make problems, so I'll let Erica talk about that. But I love designers; they're great.
What?
So when you said if there was a faster way to solve problems, you do that?
Yeah, but you should definitely just go and make small games. It's cool on your resume to see you made a game, and then you can talk about what you did in that game. Like for real, like that's like above your classwork. I would put you made this game and then what you did in it and why you thought it was cool and stuff like that. So
So I want to stay here with you and just ask you, what's something small that you've recently enjoyed about working at IG?
Gosh, man, that's not a hard question, but it's like that there's small is tough because I work on so many cool things that it's I'm just going through like so I was just at GDC last week and that was amazing. And I got to go with Marina too, was there. The camaraderie and like people I work with continue to be just the best thing about my job. The gaming industry is kind of cool that way so I worked in a couple of places before IG and we're kind of full of like people who are kind of down and like little passionless, just kind of going through the motions, had to do the thing to get the job, to get the money so they could live, and which I appreciate and totally understand. But people who work here usually work here because they really love games and they really like what they're doing. So that's like it's like always nice to be around because it's just a lot of happy, friendly people, and I don't know, I absorb energy that way. So so it's for me, it's the best part. Small things. Erica brought in donuts this morning into the office, so that was fun. Like Orlando, the joke is we like to eat, so there's always somebody bringing in some
Treat.
dessert they made or cookie. Like, don't be on a diet in our office. It's tough. It's rough. Like, you can do it, but it's just maybe ask to sit a little further from the kitchen or something. So that was a little thing that happened today that was fun. Yeah, I don't know. I can't talk about my current project at all. But my last project was Rumbleverse, and that was just a wild ride. Of course, it ended not the way we would have picked, but the ride was still fun, and we got to do a lot along the way. So yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I was going to go to Meredith next with something small that you enjoy about working at Iron Galaxy, other than sitting next to me in Iron Galaxy Chicago. Other than that.
Oh, Eli, that's it. What else can I say? That is a wonderful, wonderful highlight. I would honestly have to kind of repeat what Alicia said with like the camaraderie and just the people that I work with. Not just on my immediate team, not just in, the HR team or on the, services side, but just across Iron Galaxy as a whole. I cannot tell you, I was never the kid who looked forward to going to the lunchroom in school. That was always a very terrifying thing for me. And I have to say, it's pretty awesome to work in a place where I actually look forward to going to the lunchroom. I look forward to seeing who's there, who's hanging out, who's playing what, right? It's awesome to work in a place where everyone is so passionate about what they do, because no one is afraid to talk about what they're playing or what they're working on, or everyone's looking forward to talking about all of the exciting things that are happening. So it's also always fun to watch Alex play Monster Hunter on the screen. As someone who has only observed Monster Hunter be played, it is a very wild time. So I would have to say, yeah, I don't know. Aside from everything, that's a pretty broad answer. That's how I would narrow that down. So
Thank you. Thank you for sharing so much. It sounds like truly a great place to work. Once again, HR approved. So we'll put the Marina stamps. Rejess, I wanted to ask you, what do you think that Iron Galaxy is doing to help hire more women and to have a pathway for more underrepresented communities get hired by our company?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, since I've come on and you've joined us as well, we've really done all we could, and we're still trying to find out new ways, but just ways to learn how to improve our processes. So that started with our job descriptions. So stuff that is small as a language in our job descriptions, we wanted to make sure that we are having inclusive language and that the language isn't leaning masculine or feminine on either side, that it is attractive to all genders and all people. We do things, especially on the recruiting side, like removing bias, hopefully, from our recruiting process as much as possible. So our phone screens or our initial calls with you are all on the phone. When Eli and the recruiting team look on LinkedIn, they can't see your faces. So we try to really evaluate the candidate based on the candidate's credentials. We do blind tests for some of our departments so that we remove all your identifying information if there's a technical test that's required. And also in our interviews, we try to make sure that we have at least one femme presenting or woman in the interview so that you don't get a panel full of guys, right? We want you to know that there's people here to support you. And so we wanted to make sure that our interview panels are representative of that as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a big portion that we've already kind of touched on a few ways, whether it's with people's career paths or with its Erica's story, with the way that Erica went from QA into design, right? There's a lot of mentorship here, and there is kind of a continuous, I would say, culture of mentorship and helping people level up and grow. I think the games industry, you may have seen in headlines, has many things that it can do better. And I think some of the things that we're really tackling here at Iron Galaxy are the onboarding process, our digital safety. In fact, Meredith's team, if you want to talk a little bit about this, Meredith, but everyone meets HR like kind of face to face. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, my team is in charge of meeting with every employee at the company every 6 months. So, we meet with you twice a year, essentially. We also meet with our managers more frequently, every 3 months. And really, what these check ins are here to do is to very honestly check in with you as a human being, as an individual at Iron Galaxy, to hear how you're doing, how your experience is, right? Are you experiencing any challenges that we can help improve or smooth through for you? Do you need help raising something, right? Are you blocked in a communication channel? So we really operate as almost like a communication conduit for our employees, and to make sure that they have a space to go to receive immediate action if they have a problem, or feedback if they need it, or just a space to also talk about how things are going, right? Because there's a lot happening, not just in work, there's a lot of things going on, but so long as we can be a space in work for you to talk about how you're feeling there, uh, that's what we strive to do. So
I think that's great information to share. And another thing that kind of piggybacks off of that, like, how are you doing? It's the how are you doing isn't just like feeling personally, right? The how are you doing can also be like in your job and in your role. Does anyone have anything that they can share around the continuous education they've received at the company? I know Erica, obviously, you have a lot of continuous education that you've got here at the company. Yeah, you could just put your hand up. Let's go, Erica. Tell me about it.
I can keep going. So on top of obviously going from QA into design, another thing with the design department I can definitely speak up on is in terms of if you're interested in other areas of design. So although my title is UI, I've also been doing UX further education as well. We have a senior UX designer who has been working closely with me. I have meetings with her every other week, and we just go over all the principles and just to further my career growth. And that's something that I was interested in. And the company's like, yes, do that.
Like, and you get to do this on company time, right? This isn't
yes,
like
yeah, pretty much. And it's just kind of, and it's always very big about kind of creating just if it can better your career, do it, please. It's going to help the team, it's going to help the company. There's never really a reason to not do that. So just kind of like, yes, I have joined the design team, but my education has continued and I don't see it ever really stopping.
I love that. Alicia, do you have anything else you can share about the mentorship? Because I know that you've been a project lead here, you've had people report to you, but then also the continuous education side, since you've been with the company for almost 10 years now, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of different things.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of iterations of this too. Like we used to have a very robust mentoring program because a lot of us were very junior. Like we didn't know everything. Like we'd only like a bunch of us just started in the game industry, and they took us in right from school. So they the people who were more senior all took one of us to kind of mentor and talk through things with. That wasn't our lead. Now that we're actually talking about bringing that back, that it stopped for a little while just because we didn't really, there was no real good plan around it. It was just like, you'll just talk to them and mentor them, and we'll go to coffee and stuff, and that was fine. But a lot of folks kind of grew out of it, and it was kind of this wishy-washy program that wasn't doing so well. So now that we have people like Eli and Rejess and everybody else who's like, we have an actual department that does this, which by the way was not a thing for us for a very long time. Like a lot of the mentoring and community building plans and ERG groups and stuff, we have other ways of doing that work. So but I think we're kind of in talks of doing mentoring, like direct mentoring like that again inside the company. I know there's some people who do it outside the company, like we mentor people who are in school and stuff like that. But as far as continuing education, other things like we have, at least on the engineering side, we have a programming group that meets every 2 weeks, and we talk over different topics, so we can ask questions. And like, some of this stuff is like, if you just never came across it, you'd never see it. And it's anything from kind of stuff you would see in university that might be like a little more basic, but like maybe you just never had it, to like more advanced concepts of like, virtual file systems are the new hotness, and we're going to talk about them. And then we also have a rendering group that meets at the similar cadence, and they talk about the latest rendering technology and like what's cool there. And they blow my mind constantly. So those are two groups that we have meet that are constantly. We have a UI group that meets that talks about the latest UE4, UE5 UI hotness that's come out, because we have a lot of UI people who are very passionate about it. So there's a lot of like communities and support like that at our group, just to keep your passions flowing too. Like talking through those kinds of things are fun, and kind of keeps your blood boiling about everything. I don't know. I'm weird. Sorry, you asked. I'm an
No.
engineer. I'm not a talker, so I'm gonna bumble a bit. Sorry, everyone.
I love it. No, this is perfect. I didn't think I was going to get blood boiling today, so now I know that like the stuff that gets you super excited is
Super
the new
exciting.
hotness in
Yeah,
Unreal 5.
right? Your blood boils, so it's hot.
I love
Anyway,
it.
sorry. This is how my brain got
It's
there.
perfect. This is perfect.
Trying to think what else we do. I mean, we've already talked at length about the program Erica went through. But yeah, we're just into whatever you're into, and we want to kind of feed that. So, and you can
See
move
that
around
energy.
so much. Like I've done everything. Like I've named a topic in game dev and engineering, and I've probably been in it. I think that's true at this point. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I haven't. It's like I've done AI, I've done rendering, that was fun. I've done performance, I've done gameplay is always fun.
Procedural generation. Have you been in there?
UI, not as much. Okay, fine, found one. Good job.
I was gonna try. I had to try.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. I really haven't done that much with that. But yeah, so you can move around. So if you get, into something else, we have like a roles spreadsheet that you can kind of rank what you want to do, at least in engineering again. If you want to go into a certain area, you can rank it higher, so you can get more focus on it for your next project, hopefully. Yeah.
That's incredible that the company has that flexibility, or even keeps the employees in the conversation when it comes to those areas that you might be either deployed in or that you might be working in. And I really appreciate that. The next topic I kind of wanted to get to, and Marina, I wanted to go to you with this one first, but it's hard to have the confidence to go after these roles. There can be a lot of self-doubt. There can be a lot of imposter syndrome. There can be a lot of no's. So Marina, do you have any advice that you would give to someone struggling with that, either imposter syndrome or self-doubt?
Yeah, sure. I think this is a very difficult topic to tackle, just because everyone has their own level of imposter syndrome or whatnot. But I can speak for what it works with me. And to me, I get, as an artist, I love to have this very organized chaos, where I get very ambitious and try to do it all, and not do nothing. And that is something that a lot of people may relate to. And the best technique that I have is something that I call collecting little wins, which is basically having a small personal milestones of things that you want to tackle, like a very short term, like milestones. And the final, the final goal is obviously something way bigger than your little milestone. But eventually you get like, okay, I did this, I accomplished that, I did this, and then you can have like a sense of constant progression and accomplishment as you go. Like, it's not like, oh, I need to finish this big thing. You've done so much already there. You just need to kind of wrap it up, right? And so that's something that keeps me sane, if that makes any sense, every day. But something that is more like, from the leadership perspective of my role, is that if you're struggling with those thoughts, rely on your team. And I can explain how. Because sometimes the same devs, we might be going through the same struggles. That makes sense. So be open about it. To be as a lead, I try to make sure that artists don't do the same repetitive tasks for a long time. I might suggest rotating to break it up, to keep things interesting, and that usually helps the artist to try new things outside the comfort zone too, with new techniques, software, engines, content. It kind of goes back to branching out and having that mentoring role of like, you can try this now. Being exposed to things that are outside your comfort zone will make you like get more exposed to different things and get a sense that you're constantly changing, constantly learning, constantly progressing, and also very important for a lot of leads. Recognizing the great work that your team does almost daily is a super big part of making sure that the artists always reflect on their own progress and then realizes how much they improved since last time they check. So that's kind of my own team building, ways to mitigate those thoughts and, those insecurities that sometimes can, everyone struggles with that. So
Yeah, we're all human, right? And you don't have to be extroverted or wiggling like me every day, right? There are many ways that you can be a good team player or be a good team member, right? That's keeping people in the loop. That's delivering your tasks on time, right? Because we know it's so hard to either have the social battery for you to go to these networking events or go to a thing like GDC, or the funds to go to something like GDC, right? So in all the spaces like Erica was mentioning, whether it's the game jam, that's where you're building that network. And how do you illustrate to all those people that you're on those game jams with that you're a good team player? It's delivering tasks on time and communicating, right? All of those things are really important, because the folks that you're on game jams with today might be the folks that are hired somewhere else tomorrow that are getting you the job, 3 weeks from now or whatever it is, right? So just keep that in mind, that you don't always have to be the most smiley, extroverted person, but do whatever you can and have a mind to being a very good team member, right? And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. Meredith, did you have anything that you wanted to share around the self-doubt or imposter syndrome side of the career, the games careers? Because I know that you talk to a lot of people at Iron Galaxy, and I'm sure a lot of folks, they all struggle with the same things that we all struggle with too. They're all people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are all human, and the best thing we can do is remember that. I have to say, I think something I developed for myself as I was job hunting, trying to get into the industry, and something that I find helps as well when talking to folks, is reminding yourself why you're doing it, right? And for me, that question was actually like, who are games for? Whenever I would start experiencing that self-doubt, when I was searching in this industry, trying to get into it, is just reminding myself, okay, who are games for? For me, that answer is everybody, right? I think games are a form of storytelling, and everyone experiences story and should interact with it, because that's how we learn our world and our lives and everything. And so that would help reorient me to, okay, well, if games are for everyone, then I also belong here, just like everyone who is already here. And I want to work to keep that door open for anyone else who wants to get in here as well. Um, that's a tactic. I try and start to question that self-doubt if I can. Ask it those questions. It's easier said and done with someone external to you. So I have to say, I have a much easier time helping somebody else question that mentality for themselves, and walk them through that in things like check-ins, and get them back on track of, you do belong here. But the strongest answer is going to come from you. So me sitting here saying you belong here isn't going to be as impactful as if I can get you to that answer to arrive there. And I found one of those questions is just reminding yourself, who are games for? And in my opinion, they are for everyone. So you belong here just like everybody else does. So, oh, you're muted, Eli.
I just said you are a part of everyone. It was a real sweet moment, but I want to stay on not that these are heavier topics, but I think these are important things for us to, be transparent on and share, feelings on. Alicia, I wanted to ask you, because it can be hard to be in the spaces. And I wanted to ask you, because we had a conversation yesterday, around finding that motivation to keep chasing the role that you're in when you're the only woman in the room, because it's an experience that I have not had. And I would really love if we could just hear some of your feelings about it, because I know that this is a thing that many women in this room may struggle with and have the same position.
Yeah, so I was talking to Eli yesterday, which is why I think he's prompting me for this, about how, like, when I went to school, especially in undergrad and stuff, I was definitely the only woman, or I was like one of two in a room of like 200 dudes. And that's not an exaggeration. Like, my algorithms class was really like me and this like lady named Molly, who, anyway, doesn't matter. So yeah, she was great though. Yeah, you just got to keep going though. I just I was telling Eli, I don't know how to tell someone just to, have some grit and just don't let anyone stop you. But that's kind of what you got to do. You got to just ignore that feeling of like being different, and um just not to let it get to you, and find your community. So like, that might mean you have to make it too. Like, that might mean seeking out people who maybe they're not in your major even, but like, you know, they're adjacent to your major. Like at IG, when we first started, I was in Orlando, especially, I was the only girl or woman, whatever, in our office for a very long time that was an engineer. We finally got a couple more, and I was very excited. Not engineers, but just designers and artists. I still didn't work with them though, because I was on port projects, and normally port projects are just kind of like big engineering projects. Like sometimes we get some artists that are sad because all they do is down-res assets. It's kind of, oh. But like, you know, so I started trying to invite them all out to go to lunch with me, because I was just like, I would like to speak to some women during my day. I love all the guys I work with. I really do. I work with like the most supportive dudes I've ever met, and like family to me right at this point. But yeah, I just think you have to build that community if it's not there for you, which I know not everyone can do. So it's maybe find some people who are already meeting, if that's a thing you can do. But other than that, you really just have to ignore that feeling of being the other one or not being the same. And it's hard. It is. It's like, it's hard to speak up and things, and you don't want to say the wrong thing, and you want to fit in, and you just can't, and you won't. So why bother trying? You know, like at some point you just got to ignore it. Just do what you need to do. So I don't know, just keep on being awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing. That
Sure.
that's some of the most valuable information. Keep being awesome. Keep being your true, authentic self. We were talking about our resumes and how I have something on mine that, like, if you don't like this, then you're not going to like me, and I'm probably not going to stay at your company long term. So I know when you're job seeking right now, that's probably not great advice, right? Like, but we do think that you should be your true authentic self in the job space that you enter, because hopefully you're going to stay there long term. And I think, Erica, I saw you have another point kind of on that too, on the being one of the few amongst the many in a space.
Yes. So I was also in the same boat where when I was in college, I was the only girl in the classroom and all of that. But I will say that once I joined and got into the actual professional workforce, I came across many more women of various talents and awesomeness and positivity. And I just wanted to say that I still remember, because I've known Alicia, I've been with Iron Galaxy for almost 6 years now. So I've known Alicia for a long time. And it wasn't until Rumbleverse that I actually got to work with Alicia. And I still remember that first meeting. It was Alicia and me, and then I think Marina was also in it. Like it was
And Anna too. Anna was there.
Anna,
I was like, fuck.
Yes, we had a huge meeting going over this new features. There was like 5 of us. We were all women. We were all leads. We were all responsible feature holders and all of that. And Alicia was just like, I need to take a moment to appreciate.
I was so excited.
And I was just like, oh yeah, because when I joined Iron Galaxy, I was the only female in QA even in my department. But like we have our numbers have doubled. We have so many more women in our company now. I haven't even met all of them since we returned to office. But it's super exciting. So although it was really hard and difficult when I was in college, like to be the only girl, I will say that like there is change. It is happening. We're not perfect yet, but it's amazing. But having these conversations, bringing up these topics, reaching these things out, I think it's making a huge difference. And yeah, it's just been really fun to come across more women in the industry, and for sure.
I love that. What a beautiful sentiment. I was actually going to say around the point of creating that community or finding your community. Would you mind sharing some of the organizations that all of you follow that might be great spaces for women? There's Women in Games, obviously. I can share a few, but does anyone have any specific organizations they want to give a shout out to?
Women in Games was the first one I thought of. I actually got to meet. I think she might run it at GDC. I got to meet her. She was really cool. And then the most of the I don't know. So, like most of the ones I'm focused on are very either tech related or they're related to younger like kids who are like in high school and stuff. Because I'm really big on our pipeline is just not good enough, and like I'm more interested in helping that. So I'm less into the professional women's organizations. I know there's like there's ACM for women, so that's a big computing one. But yeah, I don't know for games if there's other professional. I think there's
Girls in
IGDA
games?
does a thing.
Girls in
Girls-
games is one, I think. Girls who code.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
there's
still, I think that's like, isn't that like focused on more on like high schoolers and stuff though?
yeah.
Like you can
Mm.
mentor with them, but like you're not going to be a professional looking for a community in them.
Yeah.
I get a couple that I support that I
Yeah.
think they are like the normal women in games and the normal women who code are very well known. But I personally follow one that is Women in Esports campaign, which is kind of the fight for more equitable and inclusive future in esports, because there's a lot of women in the sports right now. And a personal favorite of mine is called femdevs.es, which is a organization that promote the interest and participation and presence of women in culture and video games. I think they're based in Spain, Barcelona, but they promote a lot of events, and they usually work a lot with girlsmakegames.com. So maybe I will drop in the chat a couple of links because they are pretty interesting.
I agree. There's also Code Coven. There's Black Girl Gamers, Black Girls
that's a good one.
Code. Yeah, and there's also the Game Hers, which is like that award ceremony. But if you follow them, they oftentimes retweet femme presenting organizations too. So those are all great spaces and great folks to check on. So we're going to jump to our Q&A here. I know we have a few questions in the Q&A. Before we jump to that, I'm just going to do one final share of the screen here with just some advice on help to get hired. So again, everyone here, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, my name's Elijah Montoya, and I'm happy to provide you with resources, whether it's job boards, salary advice, anything like that. But here's just a few points that I have for you. So you should always apply to your job on the company website. Things like LinkedIn, Indeed, these are aggregators. So they scrape the information and they don't always get all the accurate job details. You could be applying for a role that's senior or mid-level and not know you're applying to that. So I always think you should go to the official company website. In fact, sometimes these other external websites can have a job up that's no longer open, and you could be, getting your hopes up for something that's already closed on the official company website. So apply on the official company website. The other thing you should do at the end of every interview, because I know you want feedback, is ask for feedback on the call. If your interviewer says, do you have any final questions for today or any other questions today? You should say, yes, do you have any feedback for me on this call? So I'm going to give you an actual question in a way you can pose this that doesn't maybe sound so formal. But essentially, the reason you want to get this feedback then is that there's so many applicants to many of these game dev roles, and getting feedback on the call is when it's going to be most relevant. And if that person is transparent and willing to share, you might be able to find the thing that helps you level up and get the job you're looking for. Whereas, maybe you get a rejection 3 weeks later and you ask for feedback, they might not have all that context to be able to give you the right information. They may have interviewed with 5 other people since then, or time. There's a million things. I watched Mandalorian, I watched the session, like I don't even know what I had for breakfast, right? There's all these things that can happen. So do whatever you can to secure your feedback on the call so that you can start improving to get that next role, And one of our designers' favorite questions at the company is this question here. Do you have any concerns about me in this role? From this question, I think 2 things can happen. Either they'll describe a concern and you'll have an experience or something from your past that you can pull on that'll smooth over that concern, or you'll find out the one key missing ingredient to help you land the job next time, right? So you could remix this and put it into your own words, but do you have any concerns about me in this role? I think is a great question to ask, because you'll either find out, what you need to work on, or you'll have an experience to talk about to smooth over that concern. So those are 2 really important things. And with that, we'll jump to the Q&A here now. I just wanted to put all of our panelists' information on the screen again. These are our amazing human beings that are here. Thank you all for attending. And we're going to jump into, with our final 18 minutes here, some things that are in the Q&A. I will stop sharing screen now and pop over to that. Rejess, I don't know if you've been monitoring this or you have any that you specifically want to dive into, but I'm happy to co-pilot this with you.
Absolutely. First question was, does Iron Galaxy plan to, or are they already supporting the esports industry? So we strictly typically work with game development and not the esports industry. If you're interested in esports, I would suggest you look at the actual game publishers. So those companies typically have more esports related roles or esports organizations themselves. Someone also asked, can I get hired with day one CPT?
Yes, so that is a question around sponsorship. And Iron Galaxy has worked with students in the past who require sponsorship. And what I would tell you is that oftentimes it's the 1 year that you have of the CPT, and then you can apply for the 2 years of STEM extension. If I'm correct, and you can tell me if that's your situation too. It depends on the school and what type of programs they have set up with the government. But it has not been a deal breaker for us at Iron Galaxy. So students seeking that sponsorship, essentially what happens is every May we go to bat for you and we submit the packet to get approval. But the one variable that's not in our control is the US government approving said H-1B visa or sponsorship. And that has about a 33% success rate. So, right, we get multiple chances if your school has the CPT and then it also has, or OPT CPT, and then it has the 2-year STEM extension. So that's usually what we look at. But I hope that covered your question there and had all the kind of information you're looking for. But please apply and we can have a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Eli. The next question was, I recently participated in my first game jam. My team and I couldn't finish the game we set out to. Would we still be able to use this experience in our portfolios or resumes?
Erica's nodding the head. Go, Erica, go.
I will say I have been in many a game jam. I think there's only one time where we actually did the things that, oh no, we were one level short. We don't always complete them in that time crunch. It's perfectly fine if it's not completed. It is something, it is work, it is experience. Yes, use that. And like I said, game jams, if you actually finish and complete a game within a game jam and that tight of a time crunch, I'm curious as to exactly how it plays. So yeah, no, totally use that for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else want to share on that? Cool.
Yeah, but
oh,
sorry, I was gonna add super quick related to that what Erika said. Not only is okay to show it, sometimes it's your only really experience working with a team that you may have when you're very fresh just starting out of college. Because some people may have some programs that let you make your own games, but sometimes you just came from another career path and your game jam is kind of like the introduction later for you to say, hey, I just did this with friends and this is how it plays. So it's key to see how the entire process developing went for us.
Cool. We had
I was going to say finishing a game's a small miracle, and if you got like a level that's like slightly playable, you probably still learned a whole bunch. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. The next question was, are there any remote roles? I would love to get into the industry with Iron Galaxy, given the company is very caring in regards to its employers or employees. We don't have any full remote roles, and Eli, stop me if I'm incorrect, but to work at Iron Galaxy, you do need to live in a studio city. So that is the requirements, Austin, Orlando, Chicago, or Nashville. And like Eli said, we have a flexible hybrid schedule where you work 2 days in the office and 3 days at home.
And I would also say we help with relocation assistance for full-time employees. So we'll take care of you on that front.
Oh yeah, the reload is legit. So yeah, if you get hired, you like don't get left out in the cold. Like we help relocate you. There's a stipend for that. And I think there's questions about how to ask a question. If you can't find the Q&A, there's like a Q&A button at the bottom to type your question in. If you don't see it, just throw it in the chat. We'll catch it there as well. The next question is, what are some suggestions for someone who works in advertising agency that wants to move over to the publisher and studio side? I'm having difficulty finding those opportunities since most require studio publisher experience.
I can jump on this one first, and I'd be happy to hear other folks chime in. So I think that the best avenue that you can look at is that you are in some way, shape, or form someone who's managed project, someone who's managed people, someone who can deliver something from sketch to shipped product, right? So I think many roles, one, production is kind of in that path, but the salary reality is going to be tough when you're coming from an outside position, right? Because you may have to take a few steps back in your career to get in. So production coordinator, associate producer will be those roles that you're looking for. But that's a concession you might have to make on that salary side. But I think other lateral moves you can make are into the HR and even in departments like what Meredith is working in, right? With employee success, with learning and development, with user research. You can look at all of these. In communications, there's brand management, there's PR, there's all these functions that are a part of games that I think would be a smooth transition for you. And then you can use that to potentially, like Iron Galaxy, grow to other areas that you might be interested in. But I think those type of job titles, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I can rattle them off to you in a chat and you can just use that as your Google search. But I also have a bunch of job boards I can share with you as well that can help you out.
Definitely want
And
to
if
echo
anyone
what
else,
Eli said about taking a step back to take a step forward. If games is something you're really serious about, sometimes you do have to take what seems like a step back in your career so that you can move forward or adjacent to a different industry. So don't be afraid to take a lower role or a lower salary if that's something that you can still manage your lifestyle with. But yeah, definitely consider that because you never know what you might be missing out on. Yeah, so don't be afraid. Alicia?
yeah.
I was going to say I did exactly that.
Go ahead.
That's how I got into game dev. Disney paid better. Just it did. I'll say it did. But I hated my life, and this is awesome. And now I'm back up to just normal. It's fine. Like you'll catch back up if you're passionate. You'll get back to where you were. It's so much nicer to work in something you like working in. It's worth the pay cut all day and all along.
Something you like, people you like, a place you like. You got to kind of think about the holistic work-life environment that you have and kind of make decisions about what's most important for you as an individual.
Yep.
I think Meredith had a piece too.
I was just going to jump in and say too, as you're looking to make that change, don't focus solely on like the title that you currently have maybe, but look at your skills that you have and what you've done and what you've accomplished and think in ways of how that will translate to different areas, right? So advertising, things high in communication skills, right? That's your HR, that's your communications teams as well, things like that. Just keep in mind the way that your skills will translate versus getting too focused on maintaining that same title, so to speak. So
yeah, and to close it out. Oh, go ahead, Eli.
I was just going to say a piece of advice I always give folks is to use your experiences that you have so your experiences on one side, like the stuff on your resume, and on the other side is the job description, and the connective tissue in between that is your cover letter. So I almost tell people to wield the job description against the hiring team in a way where like it's undeniable that you're a fit for this role. And essentially, right, it's like, hey, this bullet point in the job description, this bullet point in the job description, I have this experience. I'm going to weave together a paragraph that makes it undeniable that I could do this task, right? So that would be my advice to you. And we can get on calls, we can do resume reviews, portfolio reviews, but I think that that's like where you should look at it. The job description's on one side, your resume's on the other, and that connective tissue between it is your cover letter.
Yeah, and to wrap it up, I was going to say Iron Galaxy does a really good job of giving people a chance. So apply with us if you don't have experience. A lot of us came with no actual formal experience. Maybe we had a lot of transferable skills, but we were able to find a home here. This was my first role in DEI. Eli, I think this was one of your earlier roles in recruiting. So yeah, we were able to kind of find a place here. So yes, apply. Don't be afraid to apply. So next question was, I've been doing software engineering professionally for 10 years and I'm wanting to switch to the gaming industry, but I don't have experience in C++, C#. Should I focus on learning those before my job search, or are there some gaming adjacent programming positions I could look into?
I can jump on that unless you want to first, Alicia.
I was actually typing an entire response to her, but I can just read it instead. So I was going to say, Kathy, some build engineering positions could work for you. Just depends on what your experience is in. I don't know if it's scripting languages or web stuff. It's a little too vague for me. But sometimes build engineers work in a lot of different scripting languages. So that something like that might work for you. At IG, we do test C++, we don't have, like, because I was telling you about how we move from position to position, we don't have a build engineer at IG. Everyone is a generalist engineer. You might end up specializing a bit, but all those people, we can move from project to project. So yeah, Elixir and Ruby and lots of backend API connectivity. Yeah. So there's definitely people who work on backends in games, especially anyone with a live services
Multiplayer,
game.
yeah.
Yeah, like anyone who's doing live services game, like Fortnite, Warzone, or what's that tanks game? Anyway, Eric,
World
help
of
me. You
Tanks,
probably know all these. Yeah,
PUBG,
World
yeah,
of Tanks.
yeah.
That's what I was
Where the
thinking.
tanks.
So like any of those games are going to do tons of backend stuff, and you probably would be very valuable to any of them. Just be aware of the whole salary bit, because if you're working backend in like a web company right now, you're probably going to make more money than you're going to be doing it in games. But I don't know that for sure. Some of the bigger companies, that's not true. So just depends. You can throw it out there and try. IG, you do need to know C++. Our interview, it just has a lot of it. So you'll have a hard time in our interview if you don't know that.
And one thing I will piggyback on and say, Kathy, that we have C++ resources that I can send your way. People who have failed our test have received the resources and in 3 to 6 months beaten the test. So this entire resource pack, if you take it seriously, it will help you get a job anywhere in game dev, not just with us, but it'll help you get that experience on the C++ side. One of our heads of engineering has said, like, really, we need someone with a solid foundational engineering cake, and we're going to get them like the gaming frosting, like the engines and stuff like that. But like, as long as your cake is sound of your fundamentals and stuff, we can get you the different engines because you're going to be jumping between them, and we're going to need to ramp you up in many cases anyway.
All right. Yes. Next question is these are both producer questions, so I'm going to try to lump them in. To be a producer, what kind of portfolio is needed, and what production roles does IG look for when hiring? So maybe that's skills. So what production skills do we look for when hiring?
Yeah, I can jump on that one unless anyone has anything they want to share about producers specifically. All right, I'll hop in. Or Erica, you got something?
Oh no, I'm muting it in case I had something to add on after what you say.
I see. Cool. Teamwork. I love it. Okay, so I would say that if someone was asking me, like, how can I stand out as a producer, what can be on my portfolio? And I do think it comes down to knowing the tools that the company you want to work for uses, right? So we use Jira, we use Confluence, we use Perforce, and you could, if you don't know these tools and you're not familiar with the terms I'm saying, there's online resources where you can figure them out, and you can also talk to the recruiters at the company you want to work for and ask them, because you can get certifications in all of these different programs and show that you have a base level competency with these items. And then, just Scrum certifications, knowing agile workflow methodologies, all that kind of stuff helps. But any of those additional courses are a thing that can get you 2% over another candidate. And then using your cover letter to speak to those experiences. And, let's say you've done some game jams and how you learn from those game jams and how they're, that you've used those skills that you have certifications in on your cover letter there. So that's what I would say. Erica, what did you have?
Yeah, I was just trying to think of what because I work very closely with producers, and I know Alicia and Marina probably do too as well. It's just that they, on top of, it's primarily there's the skill set, lots of Confluence documentation, in support, in management, time management. Eli already brought up Agile, which is something that I'm just in Jira tasks, all that management and those skill sets. That's really what we look for. So nothing major to add.
It's all good.
I have a little thing to add that is interesting, especially because a lot of people in gaming industry come from another career or have been doing career shift for a little bit. I see that I found that producing roles are something that a lot of the skills you may get in the film industry, animation industry, for instance, as long as it's database or some kind of like management type of tool, they are very easy transferable to gaming. You just need to understand the team and the disciplines a little more in gaming, because we are very specific. But the main key for me, I'm not a producer, but as Erica mentioned, I work very closely with producers in the past, listening to the team and having like a great communication skills, like learning what the team needs and when they need it, and be able to foresee different features or different things that are coming down the line, and being able to roadmap everything besides all the tools is also a key component. So if you have all that experience coming from another industry as a producer, you might fit perfectly in this one. Just so you know, need to, kind of learn a little bit from each discipline and how they work to make sure you have like the perfect recipe for success, and just knowing what the team needs, because that's why you're there to support the team.
I love that demonstrating knowledge of other disciplines side of things. That's really valuable. And then I think being able to be an expert at estimates, right? And that's something that's a part of the knowing these other disciplines too. No, you don't think so, Alicia?
They will not be an expert at
Not
estimates.
early in the career, right? Yeah.
Production, no, I just don't think
no.
producers can be, like, it's too
Okay.
hard because you don't do the work. But
Yeah.
being able to communicate is huge, and then
Yeah.
being curious about, so knowing when an estimate maybe is missing part, like, oh, we're doing an animation, but we didn't leave time for, like, there's this part. Did we estimate that part? Like, how long is that supposed to take? Like, I wouldn't think they would be able to go back and say, oh, well, you said a day for this. I don't believe you. Like, you would never be, like, a producer would just get killed. Don't, no. But, like, as long as they got that estimate, that's their job. Their job is to make sure that everything is getting estimated and we've asked all the right questions. And I always think of them as, like, if they don't understand a part of the process, neither does another part of that group. Like we are infamous, all of our specialties, for not talking well. So, like, their job is to be that in-between person who is talking to the different groups. And if they're not understanding a part of it, something isn't clear to everybody, and people are probably making assumptions. And yeah, sorry.
If I
Yeah.
can,
Understanding estimates. Heck yeah.
if I can jump off that from Alicia to another just soft skill that's really good to demonstrate is where you have navigated ambiguity and how you help to bridge communications between people during that, because games, just like any large project in general, will have a lot of moving pieces and a lot of unknowns at times, and being able to be the level head for the team and make sure the information that you do have is flowing to where it needs to go is a really, really big thing. So I would say demonstrating your comfort navigating those ambiguous spaces can be really beneficial to demonstrate the softer skill side that producers often need. So
I love that. I think we did it. I think we got through the questions. We've had some sort of answer around pretty much everything. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. This talk will be recorded and on our YouTube at some point in the future. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. Please connect if possible. In fact, as these little last things here, I'll just share the slide with the contact info if you need it, if you just want to hang around for a sec and screenshot it. Bam. There's that. This is who we are. We are Iron Galaxy. I hope this was helpful and you pressing start on your career in games. Gotta say the branding. Rejess came up with a great name, so we gotta get the branding out there. Thank you to our lovely panelists for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak with this audience about what it's like working at Iron Galaxy and what your experience is like. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And shout out to Rick for putting these slides together and being the man behind the curtain. Thank you so much, Rick. And yeah, everyone have a great day, and let's get you some jobs. We look forward to interviewing you.